Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new, thank you so much for joining me today. You're already here, might as well just subscribe. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. I'm glad that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing for you. So you will see from the title of this video, I'm doing like a reflection because APC, what I wish I knew. It's a real thing, you know. One of the first things that I want to start off with saying, when I started APC, guys, I don't know, in my mind, I think after your first year of articles, you kind of feel like midnight staring, you know? And I wish I just knew and remembered that I was human. I say this humbly because when I was starting to make the mistakes, when it wasn't registering, I was like not paying attention in the lectures. It just felt like, yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you mean. You know, they're talking about the same standards that you've been seeing since your undergrad, since your CTA, since ITC. So it feels like repetition, but not really because of how the way APC is set up. So I just had this, man, I understand what you're saying kind of attitude, which I wish I didn't have, but it's a part of being human, right? So I had this, okay, I get it, right? And then the marks started coming in the form of my assignments, and I had like this false confidence because most of my assignments, I was getting C's, guys. I was competent, you know. And I did mention that some of my assignments were a bit tricky because I didn't submit one or two, but I had this false confidence that I'm competent, like I've got this APC thing in the bag, man, get sharp. Then the first assessment came. It said BCLC. That means I was borderline competent / low competence. So I didn't pass. In a nutshell, guys, let me not complicate it. I didn't pass. And I was like, how's that possible? Like, what do you mean? You know? And it happened again in my second assessment, BCLC, meaning I didn't pass. And I really didn't understand at first why I wasn't passing. Like, I was so upset with UCT in general, how to address issues, and also when really those breakthrough moments happen, especially when you are seeing the difference between what is an HC answers versus a C answer versus an LC answer. And that's one thing I wish I knew earlier, because this I knew, but I only used it properly towards the end. And that is going to the SAICA website and really downloading all the past papers and seeing the difference between what is an HC answer, what is a C answer, what is an LC answer. And basically that helps with framing your mind and seeing where you're supposed to be going to, because essentially on entry, when you are having ITC and your CTA and your undergrad knowledge, it's an LC answer. I don't want to lie to you. It's an LC answer. But then competence is like really applying what you know to the case study, to what the email is asking you to address, right? And HC is adding more value over and above what that task was asking you to do, but to like give that person, I never thought of that. Those are the superstars, guys. And to see the difference between how these three people respond is going to the SAICA website and literally downloading your past papers and reading those papers and those responses. And also, while you are there, also download the markers comments, guys. At the end of the day, we are getting marked by CAs, right? They are looking for specific things. Like the one thing that I knew now, that I know now actually, that I only learned a bit later, and at the end I felt like I was cramming it. But we specialize in auditing in my firm, right? Where I'm doing my training contract, I'm doing assurance. Other people will be doing their training in a bank. Other people will be doing financial services, whatever. But tax, right? I don't think there's anyone specializing in tax en route to becoming a CA. I could be wrong, but something like a tax query, I don't do tax every day. So it's important that in my response, I do highlight the fact that I need to consult a tax expert. And the only way you know that that's a part of a response is if you go through the past papers. Like, especially when you are doing a valuation question always recommend a valuation expert, always recommend a tax expert, always recommend an IFRS expert if they are asking you something extremely complex. Like I remember in our scenario, we had these debentures and the people that wrote my year will probably be laughing at this, but we had these debentures that were essentially IFRS 15 as well, and it was so complex. But the one thing that I knew and I remembered, whenever I see complexity, call an expert, guys. You are not an expert. Maybe you are, but these people want you to know that you must call somebody that is going to help you. You do not work in isolation. So I wish I used that knowledge earlier on without cramming, but being practical about it. So I hope I've made it practical for you when you are addressing your questions, to know complex means an expert, done, finish. The other thing that I wish I knew is that it was going to get overwhelming, but I really didn't know how overwhelming it was going to get. Guys, if I can give you context, I'm a mother. I was a trainee. I had just purchased this apartment. There was a lot of financial obligations that I now had. My daughter was going to start preschool. There was a lot happening at work. There was APC. I just felt like I am one single human, Elle Ramaila, and this is becoming impossible for me. And so I sought out therapy. So I wish I would have sought out therapy sooner, just to balance all of these hats that I had going on and all of these changes that were happening. Like, I don't know what happens when you're writing APC, but things in life also happen, man. But they happen at a rate that is really not necessary because APC is also happening, you know? So I just felt like, why didn't I have these problems earlier when I had the time, you know? But everything was happening all at once. So I sought out therapy. I really had to get my life in check in the sense of like how my mental health was doing. So I wish I would have reached out a bit sooner, because I only sought out therapy really towards the end when I didn't succeed in my second assessment, and it felt like everything was black, guys. Everything was a blur. I felt like I couldn't think anymore. I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't feel anymore. I was at that point of, I don't know this feeling. It feels like I'm alone. And I feel like that's also one of the devil's tricks, guys, to isolate you and to feel like what you are doing is not worthy. I really did question whether being a CA was for me. Like, I had sacrificed so much to like be where I was, and to be not living with my daughter, to have like gone through this very hectic year while still trying to do APC and also being a superstar at work. It just felt like now things were like coming crashing really, really fast. And for me to reach out for help was because I understood that being in a very anxious state and being very depressed, sometimes your family, your friends might not understand it. So I know sometimes you get really upset when we do try to talk to like our friends and our family members, and they really don't understand. It's because they're not professionally equipped to deal with what we're dealing with. So for me to sort out therapy was because I needed somebody who had an objective mind, who was going to make me look at myself and really ask myself questions and think about things that I've been avoiding to think about, more especially when it comes to like, do I really want the CA thing? And I say that because I really was questioning whether I was deserving of the designation and whether I could manage to do it in my capacity, knowing the fact that like my personal life and my family life was taking a strain. So it just felt like I'm being a CA but at the expense of my family. So I needed to understand that was not the case. It just felt like for this moment I really had to focus on passing APC, and that's all it was. It wasn't like my life. It wasn't like if APC doesn't work out, my life is over. You know, I had other things going on, so I needed therapy to help me do that. So I wish I had done therapy earlier. If you really do need somebody to talk to professionally, please seek out therapy as quick as you can, guys. Like, it is one of the best things that I've ever done for myself. And really after therapy, I was able to like write my SAP and pass my SAP, but also write it in a way that I wasn't as stressed. It felt like I really was doing it for me and for the fact that I had worked hard, and I really felt like for me to get to that place where I feel deserving means that I also need to back myself, and I also need to trust in my learning process and in what I have to say in a formal response on a paper. So I wish I knew that a bit sooner. The other thing that I wish I knew is that just because I have a good group means that I'm going to pass. I told you guys, I was in a group of geniuses and they happened to pass the second assessment and I didn't. Like, it really was not making sense why I was not passing, because I'm like, I'm surrounded by geniuses. Surely I should pass, you know? And again, it's that false confidence that you think because you're in a good group, you're going to pass. APC is yours, yourself. It doesn't matter if you are in a very lazy group, a very smart group. At the end of the day, yes, being in a good group really does enhance your way of thinking about issues, right? But again, also being in a lazy team might just means that you have to work that much harder and put that much effort into your learning process, which is also a pro in itself, right? But I mean, every environment that you're going to be finding yourself in, you are going to have to be the constant in it and make sure that you are putting enough work by yourself and not relying on your group members. I relied so much on my team when it came to really complex things or things that I was uncomfortable with. If it's 15 leases, auditing, tags, yo guys, there's just certain things that I really was like, this is not my portion. Ship out, allocate the trigger, you know? And that was like a big sabotage moment, because it's everything that I was uncomfortable with that I had to spend more time on. And I only realized that when I wrote my SAP and finally when I wrote my final, is that every task, every trigger that makes you feel uncomfortable just by reading it is the one that you need to be spending more time on. Even though that's not your strength, you need to make sure that you're taking enough time to really understand the conflict in the issue, the fundamental of the discipline that's being asked, and also consulting with the geniuses. Consulting, not letting them do the work and thinking that it's going to work for you, because it doesn't work. I'm here to tell you it does not work. Just because you're in a good group doesn't mean a guaranteed pass. Another thing I wish I knew is that I'll be okay, guys. I will be okay. Like, I felt like at the end of second year, wow, I was like, no, I'm finished, guys. I can't do this anymore. I am tired. Like, I am emotionally tired. I was extremely tired, like emotionally, physically. Like, I just felt like my body had gone through it. And I just was like, goodness, I have to probably do this again, until my results came back. And by the grace of God, it wasn't by Lesogo's grace, it was by the grace of God that I actually did pass. And I'm so happy that Accounting Lounge did pick up my video. If you're not following them on Facebook, please go do that. Also on LinkedIn. And I feel like for me, I was celebrating and crying for so many reasons. I think I was crying because of the sacrifices that I had made. One of them including not living with my daughter, the biggest one, right? The fact that I finally went to therapy and spoke about what was on my chest, you know. Reflecting on those LCs, like being told constantly per task that you're an LC, you're a failure, is a constant reminder, or your insecurities kind of latch onto that, right? So to finally get that validation and say, you know what, I did it, and I did it in tricky circumstances and situations, and the environment was not that great, but I was able to do it. So it gave me encouragement, it gave me some confidence to know that even though the environment might not be the best in my future, I know as a person I can overcome, I can succeed. But there's so many other lessons that I learned along the way with APC, and I'd like to hear from you. If you have written APC, what are the lessons that you've learned? What can you impart on the next people that are writing, that might have their anxieties, they might have their stresses about APC, and just overcoming them? This this career on its own, guys, takes so much courage. So if you are even watching the APC series, girl, guy, you've done the most. Like, listen, you have done it. Like, you will manage to see this last stretch through, and I wish you all the best, all love, all light. May God give you the strength to get through it, to have like a clearness of mind when you are writing, to be relaxed when you are writing, to enjoy this process, and to know that the fruits of your labor will literally manifest into an amazing, fruitful tree. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed my APC series. Don't forget to like, to comment, to share, and to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.